My name is Emma Carter. I am 27 years old, and I had just become a doctor. Tonight was supposed to be one of the happiest nights of my life. But it wasn't. Tonight was my twin sister Olivia's medical school graduation party. A huge celebration had been planned for her. More than 200 guests were invited. Important people. Rich people. Family members. Friends. Doctors. Business owners. Everyone was there to celebrate Olivia. Everyone except me. A few hours before the party, my mother sent me a text. Tonight is Olivia's night. Don't show up and embarrass this family. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I smiled. Because for 4 years, I had waited for this moment. 4 years earlier, my mother had called me crying. She told me my father's cancer had returned. She told me insurance would not pay for treatment. She told me they were drowning in debt. She told me they might lose the family home. And because I loved my father, I believed every word. I gave her every dollar I had. Then I borrowed even more money. I worked myself into exhaustion. I nearly destroyed my future trying to save my father's life. 9 months later, Olivia had a dream wedding worth tens of thousands of dollars. At the time, I thought it was a miracle. Later, I learned the truth. And tonight, everyone else was going to learn it too. But before I tell you what happened at that party, I need to tell you how it all started. Because nothing about this story happened overnight. The lies started years earlier. And they nearly destroyed my life. It began on a Sunday afternoon. I was sitting in the anatomy lab during my first year of medical school. I had been studying for hours. My brain felt fried. My eyes burned from exhaustion. Then my phone rang. Mom. I almost ignored it. Almost. Instead, I answered. The second I heard her voice, my stomach dropped. She was crying. Hard. Emma, she sobbed. Thank God you answered. My heart started racing. What happened? It's your father. The room suddenly felt colder. What about Dad? Her voice cracked. The cancer is back. Everything around me went silent. I couldn't hear the students nearby. I couldn't hear the air conditioner. I couldn't hear anything except her crying. What do you mean it's back? The doctors found another mass. I felt sick. My father had beaten cancer once already. The thought of him going through it again terrified me. They want to start treatment immediately, Mom said. I slid into a chair. My hands were shaking. What does Dad say? He doesn't want you worrying. That sounded exactly like him. My father always protected everyone else before himself. Then Mom delivered the real blow. The insurance company denied coverage. I blinked. What? They won't pay for the treatment. How much will it cost? There was a pause. Then she whispered the number. $35,000. I nearly dropped my phone. 35,000. I didn't even have 1,000 available. I was a first-year medical student living on loans. I could barely afford rent. Mom kept crying. They want payment soon. I covered my face. How much do you need? Anything. That single word broke me. Anything. Because how could I say no? It was my father. The man who taught me to ride a bike. The man who sat through every school play. The man who never missed a birthday. The man who worked his entire life for his family. If he needed help, I had to help. I called Olivia immediately. She answered on the second ring. Did Mom call you? Yes. We both sat in silence. Then I asked the question. Can you help? Olivia sounded miserable. I barely have any savings. She was dating a wealthy man named Ethan. But they weren't married yet. And she didn't have access to his money. I only have a few $100s, she said. I closed my eyes. Okay. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. After the call ended, I stared at my savings account. Years of hard work sat there. Summer jobs. Tutoring. Birthday gifts. Money I had saved since high school. Everything. $11,800. It represented years of sacrifice. And within minutes, I transferred all of it to my mother. My account balance dropped to zero. I stared at the screen. I felt terrified. But I also felt proud. I believed I was helping save my father. I believed I was doing the right thing. The problem was that $11,000 wasn't enough. Not even close. The treatment supposedly cost $35,000. So I started looking for loans. Every bank rejected me. I had no income. No assets. No credit history. Finally, I found a lender willing to approve me. The interest rate was awful. The payments would last years. But I didn't care. I signed every document. Within days, $25,000 landed in my account. I transferred every penny to Mom. Now she had everything she needed. $36,000. Enough to save Dad. Or so I thought. Mom called me immediately. She was crying again. But this time they sounded like happy tears. You saved him. I smiled through my own tears. I'm glad. I'll never forget this, Emma. I believed her. I really did. The next few months became a nightmare. My loan payments started immediately. Every month hundreds of dollars disappeared from my account. Money I didn't have. So I got another job. Then another. Then another. Soon I was working constantly. Hospital shifts. Tutoring. Weekend work. Anything that paid. I slept 4 hours a night. Sometimes less. I survived on coffee and instant noodles. My classmates studied in libraries. I studied during lunch breaks at work. My grades began slipping. I could feel myself falling behind. But every time I wanted to quit, I remembered Dad. I remembered why I was doing this. And I kept going. Every Sunday I called home. How's Dad? Mom always gave the same answer. He's fighting. I asked questions. What treatment? What medications? What scans? She always changed the subject. Focus on school. I hated that answer. But I accepted it. Because she was a nurse. Because she understood medical terms. Because she was my mother. Thanksgiving arrived. I couldn't afford to travel home. Instead, I worked another shift. That evening Olivia posted family photos online. I stared at the pictures. Dad looked healthy. Really healthy. His smile looked normal. His weight looked normal. Nothing about him screamed chemotherapy. I pushed the thought away. People respond differently to treatment. That's what I told myself. Months passed. The loan payments continued. My exhaustion grew worse. One day I collapsed during an exam. I woke up surrounded by worried faces. The school nurse looked concerned. When was the last time you slept? I couldn't remember. When was the last time you ate a real meal? Again, I couldn't remember. She suggested counseling. I never went. I couldn't afford the time. I needed every hour to study or work. Then came the call that changed everything. Mom sounded excited. Great news. My heart jumped. What happened? Your father's scans are clear. I burst into tears. Right there in the hospital hallway. All the exhaustion. All the fear. All the sacrifice. Suddenly it felt worth it. Dad was okay. That was all that mattered. At least that's what I believed. A month later, Olivia called me. She was screaming with excitement. Ethan proposed. I forced a smile. That's amazing. He rented a helicopter. I laughed. That sounded exactly like Ethan. Everything about his world was expensive. Then she started talking about wedding plans. The venue. The flowers. The photographer. The dress. Every detail sounded luxurious. Far more luxurious than anything my family could normally afford. I remember feeling confused. But not suspicious. Not yet. Mom told me Ethan's wealthy family was helping. That explanation made sense. So I accepted it. The wedding happened quickly. A huge destination wedding. Beautiful views. Expensive decorations. 200 guests. Everything looked perfect. I remember sitting there feeling happy for Olivia. And jealous. Not because of the wedding. Because she seemed free. She slept 8 hours a night. She didn't work 3 jobs. She wasn't drowning in debt. She looked happy. Meanwhile, I was barely surviving. But I loved her. So I smiled. I clapped. I celebrated. And I never once imagined that I had helped pay for almost everything around me. Months became years. Medical school continued. The loan followed me everywhere. Every payment felt like a punishment. Every month another piece of my paycheck disappeared. Still, I never complained. I believed I had saved my father. That belief kept me going. Then everything changed during Christmas. It happened by accident. A simple accident. The kind that destroys lives. I was visiting my parents. Olivia and Ethan were there too. At one point Olivia left her laptop open. The screen woke up when I touched the keyboard. I should have looked away. I didn't. A spreadsheet filled the screen. At first I didn't understand what I was seeing. Then my stomach dropped. Wedding expenses. Vendor names. Payment records. Amounts. Thousands and thousands of dollars. My eyes moved down the page. Flowers. Photography. Wedding planner. Hair and makeup. Transportation. Invitations. Everything. And next to nearly every payment was the same name. My mother's. I felt cold. Very cold. Because the total amount looked familiar. Terrifyingly familiar. More than $30,000. The exact amount Mom claimed Dad's treatment had cost. I stared at the screen. Unable to breathe. Unable to think. A terrible feeling began growing inside me. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to ask a question. What if the money never went to Dad? And once that question entered my mind, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I sat frozen in front of Olivia's laptop. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. The wedding spreadsheet stayed open on the screen. Line after line. Payment after payment. Thousands of dollars. Flowers. Photography. Wedding planner. Dress. Transportation. Invitations. Everything. And beside nearly every payment was my mother's name. I felt sick. The numbers wouldn't leave my head. $30,000. Almost the exact amount Mom had claimed was needed for Dad's cancer treatment. My hands started shaking. Slowly, I opened my banking app. I pulled up my old transfer records. There they were. Every payment I had sent. Every sacrifice. Every dollar. I stared at the dates. Then I looked back at the wedding spreadsheet. The dates matched. Perfectly. My stomach dropped. No. No. There had to be another explanation. There had to be. I rushed into my childhood bedroom and locked the door. Then I opened Dad's insurance account. His information was still saved. I searched through old records. What I found changed everything. There were no giant cancer bills. No $35,000 treatment. No emergency debt. No denied claim. No crisis. Only routine appointments. Normal follow-up visits. Small copays. Nothing more. I checked again. Then again. The answer never changed. My mother had lied. For 4 years I had carried a crushing loan. For 4 years I had worked myself into exhaustion. For 4 years I believed I had saved my father's life. And now I was staring at proof that none of it had been true. Tears filled my eyes. Not sad tears. Angry tears. The kind that burn. The kind that make your chest hurt. Then I remembered something. The insurance denial letter. The one Mom had emailed me years earlier. I found it. Opened it. And looked at it with fresh eyes. Now I had years of medical training. Now I understood insurance language. And suddenly the mistakes were obvious. The company name wasn't real. The medical codes were wrong. The wording made no sense. The document was fake. Completely fake. I stared at the screen for a long time. My mother had forged a medical document. She had used my father's cancer to manipulate me. She had stolen my future. And she had done it with a smile. That night I didn't confront her. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But screaming wouldn't help. Anger wouldn't help. Evidence would. So I started collecting proof. Every bank statement. Every text message. Every payment record. Every loan document. Everything. The deeper I dug, the worse it became. I discovered another lie. Mom had told Dad she used money from an inheritance to help pay for Olivia's wedding. Dad believed her. He never questioned it. Why would he? She was his wife. He trusted her. But the inheritance wasn't $30,000. It had only been $12,000. Mom lied to him too. The realization hit me hard. Dad wasn't her partner in this. He was another victim. That changed everything. For months I built my evidence file. I organized every document. Every date. Every transfer. Every lie. The binder grew thicker and thicker. Eventually it contained years of proof. Then I met with a law student. I explained everything. She listened carefully. When I finished, she sighed. You might have a legal case. Might? Family cases are complicated. I stared at her. So what do I do? She leaned back. What matters most to your mother? I didn't even hesitate. Her reputation. The law student nodded. Then that's your leverage. That sentence stayed with me. Her reputation. My mother cared deeply about appearances. She wanted everyone to think she had the perfect family. The perfect marriage. The perfect daughters. The perfect life. Maybe the truth was the only thing she feared. So I waited. Patiently. For over a year. Then the opportunity arrived. Olivia announced she would be graduating from medical school. Mom immediately started planning a huge celebration. The same way she had planned the wedding. The same way she planned everything. When the invitations went out, I noticed something. Only Olivia's name appeared. Not mine. We had both graduated. We were both doctors. But the party was only for her. I called Mom. What about me? She laughed nervously. Honey, this is Olivia's moment. I looked at the evidence binder sitting beside me. Perfect. If she wanted a celebration for Olivia, she was going to get one. Just not the one she expected. Over the next few weeks, I carefully prepared. I wrote a letter. Then rewrote it. Again. And again. And again. 18 versions later, it was perfect. Simple. Clear. Impossible to ignore. I attached every important document. The loan. The transfers. The fake insurance letter. The wedding payments. The inheritance lie. Everything. Then I placed it all inside a large folder. The night before the party, I added one final item. A check. The exact amount I still owed on the loan. I wasn't asking for money. I was making a point. Then I sealed the envelope. For the first time in years, I slept peacefully. The next evening I arrived at the ballroom. The place was beautiful. Crystal chandeliers. White flowers. Elegant decorations. Everything looked expensive. Everything looked perfect. Just like Olivia's wedding. I wasn't on the guest list. But I walked in anyway. Mom spotted me immediately. Her face turned pale. She hurried across the room. Emma. I smiled. Hi, Mom. What are you doing here? I graduated too. Her jaw tightened. This isn't the time. I pulled the envelope from my purse. I brought a gift. The second she saw it, her eyes narrowed. What kind of gift? The truth. For a moment neither of us moved. Then she whispered, "Please don't do this." I walked away. For the first time in my life, she couldn't control me. I placed the envelope directly on the gift table. Right in the center. Impossible to miss. Then I found Dad. He smiled the second he saw me. There she is. I hugged him tightly. Maybe tighter than ever before. Because I knew what was coming. And I knew his world was about to shatter. The evening moved slowly. Dinner. Speeches. Laughter. Applause. I barely heard any of it. I spent the entire time watching the envelope. Waiting. Finally, gift time arrived. The master of ceremonies stepped onto the stage. One by one he opened gifts. People clapped. People smiled. Everything seemed normal. Then he picked up my envelope. I felt my pulse quicken. Mom stood up immediately. Too quickly. Too nervously. The host opened the envelope. Pulled out the thick folder. His smile faded. The room laughed at first. Then he started reading. Dear Olivia. Everything seemed fine. Normal. Then he reached the next paragraph. His voice slowed. I saw confusion spread across his face. Guests exchanged looks. Mom suddenly started walking toward the stage. Fast. Very fast. Stop, she said. The host looked confused. What? That part is private. But someone else spoke. Olivia's wealthy mother-in-law. No exceptions. The host nodded. And continued reading. The room became silent. Painfully silent. Every word landed harder than the last. The wedding budget. The transfers. The loan. The fake medical emergency. The insurance records. The inheritance lie. The forged document. Everything. One truth after another. Like falling dominoes. I watched faces change. Confusion. Shock. Disbelief. Horror. Dad stood up slowly. His face had gone completely white. What loan? The host continued reading. Mom reached the stage. But it was too late. The truth was already out. Dad looked at her. Diane, what is this? She started talking. Fast. Desperate. Trying to explain. Trying to control the story. But every document destroyed another excuse. The host held up proof after proof. There was nowhere left to hide. Then came the worst moment. The fake cancer story. The room froze. Every single person understood. My mother had used my father's illness to steal money from me. Dad looked broken. Absolutely broken. What did you do? Mom started crying. But nobody moved. Nobody comforted her. Nobody believed her. Olivia was crying now too. Huge tears rolled down her face. I didn't know. And honestly? I believed her. I truly did. She had benefited from the lie. But I didn't think she created it. Mom did. Dad turned toward her. You told me the money came from your inheritance. She couldn't answer. You lied to me. Still no answer. You lied for 4 years. The silence said everything. Guests began leaving. Some stared. Some whispered. Some looked disgusted. Others looked heartbroken. A lifetime of reputation collapsed in minutes. Finally, I walked to the stage. The room watched. I took the microphone. My hands were steady. My voice was calm. Olivia. She looked up. Crying. I love you. More tears. This isn't your fault. She covered her mouth. I believe you didn't know. Then I turned toward Mom. But she knew. I pointed directly at her. She watched me work 3 jobs. Silence. She watched me take on debt. More silence. She watched me get sick. Nobody moved. She watched me believe I was saving Dad's life. Mom broke down completely. But I wasn't finished. You cared more about appearances than honesty. The words echoed through the ballroom. You cared more about impressing wealthy people than protecting your own daughter. Mom looked away. Because she knew it was true. Dad looked like a man seeing a stranger. Not his wife. A stranger. I lowered the microphone. Looked at Olivia one last time. Congratulations, doctor. Then I walked away. I didn't wait for applause. I didn't wait for arguments. I didn't wait for explanations. I simply left. Outside, the cold air hit my face. For the first time in 4 years, I could breathe. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Dad. Then Olivia. Then more messages. Then another call. A man introduced himself. It was Olivia's father-in-law. A powerful attorney. His voice was calm. What happened to you was unforgivable. I closed my eyes. For years I had waited for someone to say those words. The next few days were chaos. Dad learned everything. Every lie. Every deception. Every stolen dollar. He was devastated. A few days later, he filed for divorce. 35 years of marriage ended because trust was gone. Forever. Olivia called repeatedly. At first I couldn't answer. I needed time. I needed space. Eventually she sent a letter. A real letter. Handwritten. Honest. She admitted she should have asked questions. She admitted she benefited from the money. She admitted she failed me. For the first time I saw genuine accountability. It didn't erase the pain. But it mattered. A week after the party, another email arrived. My loan. Paid in full. Every remaining dollar. Gone. The debt that haunted me for years disappeared overnight. I stared at the screen. Then I cried. Not because of the money. Because the nightmare was finally over. For the first time in years, my paycheck belonged to me. My future belonged to me. My life belonged to me. Months passed. Dad rebuilt his life. Slowly. Carefully. Olivia started therapy. We spoke occasionally. Short conversations. Nothing more. Trust takes time. Some wounds heal slowly. As for Mom, consequences finally caught up with her. She lost nearly everything she had tried to protect. Her marriage. Her reputation. Her relationship with both daughters. All because she chose a lie. A lie she thought would never be discovered. But the story doesn't end there. Something good came from the pain. A student emergency fund was created in my name. Money poured into it. Students facing real family emergencies received help. Real help. Not loans. Not traps. Help. The kind I wish someone had given me years earlier. One evening I received a message from a student. Because of this fund, I can stay in medical school. I sat quietly after reading those words. Then I smiled. Because suddenly the suffering meant something. It had become something useful. Something good. Eventually I moved to Baltimore. I started my residency. Long shifts. Hard work. Real patience. Real responsibility. And I loved it. One day I opened a new savings account. Then I deposited $1,000. It wasn't a huge amount. But it felt amazing. Because nobody could take it from me. Not anymore. Months later, Dad visited my apartment. We sat together drinking coffee. He looked happier than he had in years. You know something? He said. What? You survived. I smiled. So did you. He nodded. We sat there quietly. Two people rebuilding their lives. Two people healing. And for the first time in a very long time, everything felt possible. Today, when I think about those years, I don't think about revenge. I don't think about humiliation. I don't think about the party. I think about freedom. Freedom from debt. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from manipulation. Freedom from fear. My mother stole my money. She stole years of my life. But she didn't steal my future. I became a doctor. I paid off the debt. I set boundaries. I told the truth. And I survived. That is the real ending. Not revenge. Not victory. Survival. Because sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is refuse to stay silent. And sometimes the moment that destroys a lie is the exact same moment that saves a life. My name is Emma Carter. I am a doctor. I am free. And I will never let anyone use my love against me again.